One of the people that I met there was a marine evolutionary biologist, a marine biologist actually from Duke. And he shared with me something really interesting as it relates to community that I think is, how does nature deal with a lack of resources, right? When resources fall away, how does nature deal with it? He gave the example of beds of mussels. So if you have a situation in the sea where there's lots of resources, so like a good amount of nutrition available, a good amount of oxygen in the water, like what do mussels need to grow? They need nutrients from the sea. They need, they need oxygen. And when that's in abundance, mussel beds just form randomly, right? You'd look there and you'd see, okay, there's mussels all over the place, but there's no distinct pattern. When mussels grow in periods of reduced resources, right, where there's not the amount of nutrition and oxygen and other things in the water for them to grow, how do they grow? They grow in clumps. And what this man said was that the reason why they grow in clumps is because in the time of reduced resources, these mussels need to form in clumps because they need the positive externalities or the positive feedback loops of being in community with other mussels in order to survive. When resources are available, they can go however they want, but when resources are short, we need to form communities to get those positive feedback loops. And ultimately, this topic is super interesting because it really spoke to my heart of realizing, like, what is the power of community? When the settlers were first coming to America, they didn't live in suburbs, right? They didn't live away from each other. You live in community because you realize that it's a super efficient way of living because everyone can help support each other and you're not, by yourself. Only when resources became unbelievably available, like with, in the 20th century, did we see people moving to a style of living that was very insular, right? Where you didn't have to know your neighbors, where you didn't have to require your neighbors for, for anything that you did. And I think that's just a really interesting way of, thinking about resources.